Okay, welcome everyone. This is a Local 100 Fightback Coalition Facebook live stream event. And we are here tonight to talk about and introduce the ideas behind our open call for an accountable, united opposition to Tony Utano and Company and PW Local 100 under the members' democratic control. Um, we have posted it in writing on Facebook, and we also created a poll because we want this to be the beginning of a discussion, not the end of a discussion. Because as we said in our draft, we believe we have some good ideas that may be able to work to accomplish the task that this was all set out to do, which was to avoid an unnecessary division of the opposition vote in Local 100 that allows our traitorous boss-loving union leadership to maintain power as they have maintained power for decades now, through minority rule, through voter suppression. And in case people were confused, we are not the ones that are trying to pull a Georgia here. It's Tony Utano that keeps trying to pull a Georgia over and over again. And when you say that, well, let the members vote in the election, does anybody not know the election is rigged? Does anybody not know that this union would make a Republican blush in terms of voter suppression? Does anybody not know that they don't care about our democratic rights, and that if the opposition remains divided and there's 3 slates running against Tony Gaetano, that there's a good chance, given the amount of people who don't get ballots, that he will get reelected? And so when people come out here with their fake facts and their fake news about how a coalition of rank and file transit workers who've been at the forefront of fighting for the members' democratic rights the entire time they've been in the union are the ones pulling at Georgia, then I think people need to think about, why are they so big mad? Why are they so in their feelings about this proposal? What about this proposal threatens them and threatens their narrative? What makes them so, so upset about it that they got to go on a 20-minute character assassinating, race baiting attack video with slanderous lies recycled from Tony Utano and John Chiarella? All the track safety lies, all the ideas that I'm some kind of traitor who's selling out members to management, those lies come from John Chiarella and Tony Utano. Yet those who call themselves the opposition are trotting them out there as if they're the God's honest truth. And they know their lies. And Pauline Navarro, if you're watching, I know you know their lies, because when they came up in the track division meeting, you said it was unfair that they would trot out these accusations without the person even being there to defend themselves. Yet you support Tremel Thompson going out and engaging in a scorched earth, race baiting character assassination lie fest, where he repeats the lies of the people who you say you want to cleanse this union of. How is that working out? Is this the choice you want to offer to the members? So I just want to talk about what's in the offending document, the open call. What is actually in it that made these people lose their shit? So let's just take a look at the document, because ultimately, look, it's about the members deciding if this is something that you want to see discussed and debated in the local. And if not, then what kind of other proposals should people be putting forward? I had it in front of me, and now it's I need to find it. Hold on just a second. Sorry about that, guys. Here's the book. All right. Okay, so I'm going to put it up on the screen so everybody can see. Okay, so it's an open call for an accountable and united opposition to Utano and Company under the members' democratic control. It says that elections in Local 100 are fast approaching, and that our members face a grave crisis. They provide the December's elections provide an opportunity for members to throw out our union's failed bureaucrats and elect new leaders that can offer hope for a way forward. It won't be easy as we have many challenges to overcome. So then what we proposed was a way, it was answering the question, how can we avoid the vote splitting that allows Utano and Company to stay in power? And to answer these questions, in keeping with our founding principles, we put forward an open call on all serious opponents of Utano and Company to participate in meetings to discuss and decide how we can build a united opposition based on clear fightback principles. Any union member wishing to run for office should agree in advance to basic principles of union democracy, working class solidarity, anti-sexism, and anti-racism, which are essential in order to be considered fit for union office. Members simply cannot accept any leaders who are silent about these issues, or those who push talking points of white supremacists or fascist-friendly political demagogues. Might that be what was so offensive, Trammell? Because we need a movement of the members from below and not just an election slate, these meetings should be open to all members committed to building an alternative to Utano, not just candidates. The meetings would discuss basic principles that all candidates would be sworn to uphold, and then vote on who should run for what positions. There's no guarantee that we will succeed. But we must try. So this is the basic proposal. And then there's a proposal that we have online meetings. Everyone in the opposition says they're for online meetings. So what are we waiting for to prove that it's possible to do exactly that? What are we waiting for to model what a union could be if it wasn't shackled by this traitorous, bureaucratic, corrupt leadership? I just don't understand how any oppositionist could not be for that. And we propose that the first meeting should be about the guiding principles of a united opposition and what the membership demands of it once it's elected. We propose a second meeting schedule on the differences between candidates for local-wide office, followed by department, division, and section meetings. So Trammell, in his unhinged rant, a la Eric Eddy, basically says that what we want is to have election after election after election to give us a chance to win. First of all, we've already won. I hate to break this to you. But aside from that, at every point, what this proposal is proposing is to put the membership in charge. And it's the reason why we're the only oppositionists who haven't been out there championing themselves, telling everybody how they're the only candidate for RTO VP, for president, for whatever the title is, because we put the membership first, because we understand that if the members discuss and debate and control the process before an opposition is elected to office, there's a much better chance that they'll be able to maintain that control once those leaders take office. And we understand that it's not about ourselves. I know that's hard for Trammell to grasp, but some things are not about you. Some things are much bigger than the individual person. And during COVID, we got to see exactly what that means, how life and death that is. And we had to put aside our differences and fight the fights to save our lives. That's what this is about. How do we save our lives from the destruction of our union, from another round of death via COVID, from collaboration with the bosses that leads to desperate consequences, not just for ourselves, but all our communities. And so my question is, if you don't agree with our strategy, then I want to see in writing, in detail, what your strategy is to unite this union, to unite working class people to fight for our lives. Is it just to trust you and hope you do the right thing? Is it just to check a box on election day and put it in the mail and hope for the best? We've already done that. And you told us to do that, Trammell. What did it get us? What did it get us? It got us Eric Logel and Linwood Richard. I want to open the floor for discussion at this point. Anthony, would you like to speak?
Yeah, just I'll take a moment to co-sign your thing, you know. But one of the reasons why I even got involved with any type of activism within this union is that, you know, what we see is that we're doing the same thing over and over. and people are expecting a different result. You know, since I've been here, it's been the same thing. One guy pop up, say, I want to unite the union. I'm the guy. I'm going to be different than the guy that's already there. And we've seen what's happened over the past 14 years. We've gotten shitty contracts. Our real wages in terms of our buying power has gone down. Our medical costs have gone up. And we're still being subjected to some of the harshest discipline of any city agency or any city workers, government workers in New York State. You know, and it's a climate of fear really down here that's being imposed upon workers down here. You've got people that, and you know, I was talking to some of my coworkers, you know, on Friday, and guys are like, you know, F this, I'm not even going to call stuff in anymore. You know, when they see stuff happening, because they're so dejected and demoralized. So, you know, logically, it makes sense to do something different and not do the same thing over and over and over again and expect different results. So, you know, in the video, Trammell said that there's no way to hold somebody accountable before the election. But there is, and it's right here in the bylaws. It's not an easy way, but if you read section 27, where it says recall and removal from section or division office, you know, I'm not going to go read it right now, but I'll just briefly go over it. There is a way where you can recall people from office. It's written in there, and it's been there for quite some time. So what we're trying to do and what we want as many people to sign on to as possible is to build a large enough coalition and to have the people who are running sign on to a series of principles so that if they violate these principles in office, while they're in office, everyone will see it. It will be transparent and it will be easy to recall these people from office. It won't be as difficult. It won't seem as a personal attack on somebody. It won't be seen as a political attack on somebody. It will be seen simply as somebody violating the principles that they said that they would adhere to once elected to office. Once we put our faith in them to hold union office and represent us in front of management and at the bargaining table. That's what we're trying to do. It has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with anything else. The reason why I have concern for this is because I work here. I'm a union member. I care about my wages. I care about the medical coverage for my family. I care about being able to live in New York City. It has nothing to do with anybody else. Nobody else. None of these guys I'm here with who I like and I consider to be my colleagues, but it has nothing to do with any of them, why I'm here and why I'm saying this and why I say the things I say wherever I go. So what I want to impress upon everybody that hears is that we have the power to take control of this union. We have the power to make this union work for us, to have this union be what it's supposed to be, the most powerful union in New York State. But I will not co-sign or stand behind somebody or work with somebody who wants to make it all about them. If you want to make it about the members, then fine. And I want to make it crystal clear that when we do this, when we go forth with this, that it doesn't even matter who the person is elected. It doesn't matter whether it's somebody that we haven't even heard of. The brand new guy who just happened to attend 6 meetings and says, I want to do this. As long as he's adhering to principles that the members, that we, all of us agree upon, and when he gets into office, he maintains that, then fine. I really don't care. I really don't care. I don't care about any of your personalities. I don't care about anything that you do. I don't care who you're with or who you're rolling with. All I care about is getting what we need as a union and having this union work for the members and stop having these bureaucrats, which we have now and which we have had for the past decade or so, to get these guys out of office and change this to the way it should be. Yep. Because we have people that go into office and they're committed to changing the bylaws and getting this and amending things so that we move into the 21st century, then fine. Yep. And if you want to be that guy, then sign on to these principles. Sign on to the principles. Meet with people, with everybody that wants to be involved. Meet with people. Put a set of principles right out in front of everybody. And there we go. And if you violate those, then we'll remove you. If you're going to put yourself forward and say that you want to run for office, for any office in this union, then you got to be to people criticizing you or saying that, look, this isn't the way we want shit done. Plain and simple. It's got nothing to do with anything else. But I can sweep the floor to whoever else wants to talk.
Okay. All right. You put that Superman shirt on, and those hands were flying. Anyway, Jonathan.
No, it's really it's just, I want people to know that they have the power, and that I'm tired of going into crew rooms and seeing people dejected, demoralized, people, because it's like one of the things that started that conversation was, every time I see waste, because the unfortunately the homeless people are relieving themselves in the station, and they're relieving themselves at the end of the platforms. To access the tracks, we got to go to the end of the platforms and walk down these ladders. And all along 4th Avenue, there's crap at the end of these. And I try to encourage my fellow train operators, if you see it, just call it in. And they're like, well, they don't do anything, blah, 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 blah. I said, but look, you're building a record, an audio record of the fact that transit isn't doing anything about the homeless problem, the biological hazardous waste that we're facing, the literal shit that we got to put up with every single day. It's like, they want us to see something and say something, and we got to do that so that, if need be, that, when we take the next step, we have records of them not doing nothing. We have evidence as to what we can do to move forward with, to stake our claim. So we got to report everything. I know other members have been doing it, but when you do it on Facebook and stuff like that, that's not really a record. If you do it the way they tell you to do it, you're actually saying, look, I went through official channels. And nothing was done. Then you have a basis to take the next steps, which would get the ball rolling, which would usually, what I've found is that it usually takes the next step, whether it be an investigative report by a journalist or a lawsuit or something of that nature to get transit to do something. But we have to build that.
Right. Anthony, you froze for a minute there. You there? You okay? All right. Jonathan, are you there?
Am I still here?
Yeah, you're still here. Yeah. Yeah, we.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought
I wanted to give the floor to Jonathan. I tried to do that earlier, and then you pick right up again. So, Jonathan, go ahead.
Nothing much to add to that. I think it would behoove Trammell, if what he has is a movement, indeed a movement, it would behoove him and his movement to reach out to people and maybe invite activists like you, like us, on his show to have this debate rather than give the impression of a pissing match.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, we're not competition. We're not trying to
Exactly.
compete with each other. We're trying to build. We're trying to build something.
Yeah.
A coalition, a movement. We're the local 100 fight back coalition. We're trying to build a coalition.
And the other thing too is that we've never made it and said we never made it about ourselves in the way of saying to Trammell or Progressive Action, you have to run under our banner. You have to get behind us. You have to accept, whatever position we think you should have. We never said that to them.
No. In fact, what you read is that you have to get behind certain basic ideals, not be behind us.
Yeah. And by the way, those ideals, I'm sorry, by the way, those ideals founded the union.
Basic principles. Be behind some basic pro-union, pro-worker, anti-boss principles.
Yeah.
Which is the point.
Right, exactly. Tom, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I want a couple little things. The principles that we came up with were the product of looking around at the union, the way the meetings are held, the way the union conducts itself, the leadership, the elected leadership. What was missing? What is not getting done? What needs to be corrected? And committing that to paper, putting it down. And the fact that we wanted to have people be able to see this is who we are, and this is the most basic rudimentary set of principles that we feel have to guide all of our further union activism, union action. And without that, the absence of that, you can get by with getting elected and saying, well, I never committed to that. I never promised. I never said that I was dedicated to, being a transparency to the membership or being accountable to anyone. And obviously people who believe in strong authoritarian rule, who want to be a superstar and the next Mike Quill, and even maybe a plaque erected in their memory after they're gone of what a great union leader they were, don't want to commit to that because it's going to get in the way of them being able to flip-flop and sort of fly by the seat of their pants. And I think that without that, we're just going to continue getting the same thing we've always had, is opportunists and who will never be held accountable to the very people that they claim they wanted to lead in struggle, and end up being just another layer of management that we end up having to fight with to get anything done.
Yeah, the other thing though, which I wanted to express was that we don't think you should trust anybody. I mean, given the performance of the opposition in this union and given the performance of the union leadership, no one has earned your blank check trust and faith that they have a perfect record of decision making and that they don't make the kind of mistakes that are the disastrous mistakes that our current leaders make. Based on their record of performance, I'm sorry, no one it lives in that kind of error-free world where they don't make any mistakes. And aside from which, the mistake you make when you're a union leader, when you're an elected union officer, they have so many more consequences than your mistakes when you're not. And it's a higher level of responsibility. It's a higher level of your political judgment, your organizational judgment, having impact on people's lives. And the bottom line is that we need union leaders that are on the humble. Okay, that's why we did not say you should trust us, that we should be the president, the vice president, or whatever position. It has to be the members. The union is the members. It has to be. That's why we're so weak, because the union is not the members. Because management is laughing at us, and Sarah Feinberg thinks she can do whatever she wants, violate the law, shred our trade union rights, our seniority rights, our pick rights, do whatever they want, wipe their feet on the face of our union. That's how they think about us. Why do they think that way? They think that way because this union is not about the members. It is not a member-driven union. It does not have any self-respect. It sits in the lap of a scumbag racist governor who and tells members that we should trust daddy, that daddy's going to do for us. Well, local 100 members, if you're tier 6, how's that working out for you? If you're somebody who got COVID while you were down here, how's that working out for you? If your family's sick because you unknowingly passed the virus on to them, because you worked down here and because they had so little concern for your life, how is it working out for you to continue to have a union, not be personified by the membership and their voices? And how do we change this? If you don't agree with our strategies, we don't think we have all the answers. Like I said, we're on the humble. If you got a better idea, we'll go with that one. But if you don't have any ideas to bring to the table, why can't we try this one? Why is it so personal? Why is it so hostile? And why does it need to devolve into mudslinging? In all the time that me and Trammell have been involved in union work together, our best moments were when we united together and put aside any differences and built the unity of our members. The assault rallies, the rally at 2 Broadway, the first contract rally, again and again, when we have not made it about ourselves and when we have put aside all of our differences to unite and put the members' voices first. That's been the most successful thing that anybody in the union has done. And my question is, if it's worked in the past, why is it just not even something to consider now? So further speakers, Anthony, would you like to get back in here?
Well, first, our open call isn't all about Trammell or any one person either. It's about, everybody that wants to run for office or declared they wanted to run for office. So, and even the people who may not be that interested in union activities or who don't like politics, who don't want to get involved in that. And, like Jonathan was saying, it doesn't have to devolve into a pissing contest. It doesn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way. Because, with management and with the MTA and with the politicians in Albany, a lot of these guys, they the only thing they really care about is their campaign contributions and getting reelected. And the people who control them are, wealthy people who want to make sure that the political climate is favorable for them so that they maintain power and they can continue to make profits. They have entire think tanks devoted to this. They have armies of lawyers. They have armies of professionals whose job it is to work 24 hours a day, to make sure that things stay the way they are. And if they need to increase profits, they will increase it upon our backs. Whether, people know it or not, the MTA is supposedly, it's ostensibly a government agency, a public transportation agency. Yet we're in the hole for billions of dollars to Wall Street. And basically decisions are being made to make sure that debt is serviced. All throughout this time period, they threatened to freeze our wages. They threatened to make service cuts. They did it on the up and up with the public hearings And then when that didn't work, when that met with too much resistance from both the public and workers, they backed down off of it, but then they tried to backdoor it in with these line picks. And we went to court, the union actually fought, but they had to be spurred on to do it. But they actually filed a lawsuit, and the MTA blamed. But you have think tanks. Now you could probably go right now because and go into the website of the Manhattan Institute, and there's another one, the Citizens Council or whatever it is, and you could see that these guys have written out basically a budget for the MTA. They have recommendations for manpower. They have recommendations for wage increases, how much they want to, they think should be spent on our medical, and pretty much everything that has to do with the agency that we work for. And usually what happens is through their proxies on the MTA board, when they come across the table, and when Utano was screaming at that rally about they want us to do this, blah, 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 it's like that stuff was already there on that website and had been there for months. So it's like these guys put on shows, and we need to stop having it. And it's like they do it almost theatrically for the behest of the politicians and their proxies. So when I come across a fellow transit worker, I'm not looking at him. Excuse me. I'm not looking at him or her as somebody that I ought to be fighting against. I don't look at him or her as somebody I want to be butting heads with and coming, or I look at him or her as somebody who's being taken advantage of just like I am, who's being underpaid. I did a video, man, I got a little frog in my throat. I did a video last time with a contract where I just held up the newspaper, one of those AM newspapers, where it said, you need to make $39 an hour to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in New York City, anywhere in New York City, not just Manhattan, any of the outer boroughs, anywhere, and to afford a 2-bedroom apartment and have money left over to just have the basics, food, clothing, shelter, and a modicum of entertainment. And when I see our fellow workers, I see that they don't want to pay us that. And when I did that video, that was from 2018, and that newspaper headline was from 2015. So that was 3 years ago then. And now in 2021, that makes that 6 years ago, and we're barely scraping $39 an hour. Prices have gone up. Everything is going up. And on top of that, I go into the Union Hall and they got this propaganda reel from Tony Utano playing over and over and over again about how they held the line with our medical costs. But you really didn't hold the line if our deductibles have gone up. You really didn't hold the line if, they're telling members you got to verify shit that they already have. It's a blatant attempt to kick people off, to kick our dependents off of our medical. So it's like, it's not a fight that we should even be looking for. And these elections, these elections, the way they're held with people competing, it's a popularity contest. That's all it really boils down to. Because, management already got their ducks in a row. And when you go across that table, it doesn't matter. They don't fear you or anybody else. What they really fear is the thousands of us. What they really fear is if our union was standing in solidarity with other workers And when it came time for us to negotiate, we could call on other unions to stand in solidarity with us.
Yeah.
That's what they really fear. They fear a total shutdown. They fear a dent in profits. They fear not being able to collect the interest off of that debt that they have with the MTA.
Yeah.
That's what they fear. See, they have a guaranteed source of income from us. They're not really, they don't even really care. You know, and I'm talking about, you know, these think tanks that are funded by these billionaires, you know, these politicians and what have you. And they got an army of professionals working against them. The TA itself has an army of professional negotiators, professional lawyers that are working against us. We need to get our shit together. We need to, it can only help us. It can only strengthen us if whoever we put in there, I don't really care who it is. I've said it over and over again. I don't care who it is, but it can only strengthen us if that whoever we put in there is being held accountable by principles, and that we have people, our members, holding these people accountable, and we have a large enough coalition that the instant somebody violates these principles, we can recall them.
Yeah.
Not somebody who's you know, raising a fist and they go in there and, you know, they're chanting this or that, or, you know, and they're saying whoever they are, or you know, they want to, you know, say that they're this or that, they're militant and this or that. And then the minute they get in there, they just go right into the fold. And because we're divided and you know, you're alienated people or whatever, nobody's willing to institute a recall. We can recall anybody that's there now. You know, anybody that's there now, we could recall if we had a large enough coalition to go through the procedures.
Yeah.
It could be done just like that.
Well, I'm sorry, good.
You know,
That was
no,
it?
I'm done. I
Okay.
gotta take a sip of this anyway.
Yeah, I was worried about your voice, man. All right. But you know, the other thing though too is that I don't know, going to the Garrett Goebel thing really like re-instructed or brought clear to a lot of members like the power and strength and the goodness of our union. You know, in terms of like who we are as people, like we're members of communities, the sacrifices that we went through during COVID. And everybody could see themselves in Garrett Goebel because any one of them could have been Garrett Goebel, and they all knew it. And they came together. They didn't make it about themselves. They made it about him and his family. They made it about amplifying his story, amplifying our voices, and the commonality between all of our stories. And that's what the MTA fears. The MTA fears us being united and our stories being told, and that's what the bosses, the ruling class in this city and state really fear. They fear a union leadership that can amplify that story and can expose them for all the illegal shit that they're doing and shut them down and show our strength and not our weakness. And basically the MTA and the ruling class in general, they rest upon a house of cards. And the house of cards are all the lies, all the racist, disgusting, anti-worker lies they've ever told about our lives, about who we were, calling us shiftless and lazy and we're thugs and gangsters and all of those stereotypes. They use crises to have us at each other's throat, to pit us against each other. And the greatest way that we can counteract that is to show our strength. And our strength is our numbers. Our strength is the voices of all of us. And right now, I just want to speak to members. Like, if you think that someday somebody's going to get elected and they're going to be Mike Quill, and they're going to, or better, and they're going to make all the right decisions, and they're going to speak for us so well, and they're going to get people to listen to us. If you think that that's a possibility, that one leader or a group of leaders can do the fighting for us, you're kidding yourself. because it's all of them versus one union at a time when it comes to negotiation a lot of times. And we can't win that battle. We just can't. We can't win the battle unless we change the balance of forces, unless we transform this into a class-wide fight of all working class, oppressed, and poor people. Everybody who's been stepped on by the system, everybody whose life has been turned inside out during COVID, everybody who is expendable during that crisis. Our work was essential, but our lives were expendable, as Seth has repeatedly said. Unless we make this that fight, we can't win. And just changing the leadership that's in power, playing the game by the bureaucrats' rules, playing the game by the boss's rules, all it does is re-erect the deck chairs on the Titanic. It doesn't change a goddamn thing. And if you believe that somebody is going to win an unfair fight and get elected and get all the power and control of the union and promise us nothing except that they're the change we needed, they are hope and change. They are Obama, they are whoever, and they're going to change it for us. Look at history and look at how that turns out. It turns out in disaster. It turns out in change not happening that is possible. Change was possible. Hope was possible at the time when Obama was running. Did we get any of that hope and change? No, we didn't. Who got the hope and change? The billionaires, Wall Street. Trillions and trillions of dollars of your tax dollars to this day are being paid because we didn't need that fight then. And a fight postponed, a fight deferred for tomorrow, when the fight for justice is deferred, what did Martin Luther King say? That's justice denied, right? So you are the hope you are looking for. We need to stop sitting on the sidelines thinking that somebody else is going to come to the rescue. It's just not going to happen. And so the members, look, when I tell leaders of this union to look themselves in the mirror and think about the fact that what you do could lead to Tony Utano being reelected and the disaster that could cause, members got to look themselves in the mirror too. I'm sorry. We gotta be honest about our own shit. We've all played a role in this. Somebody's got to pull the emergency cord. And when are you going to be the one that does it? Anthony, I see your hand up there.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people like to buy into, like, there's a feeling of like powerlessness, like, oh, they're going to do what they want or whatever, right? But, I look, on my, Facebook feed, on my different social media pages, and I see a lot of debate about a cartoon skunk, but I saw very little debate or very little discussion about the PRO Act. And, these are laws that were recently passed in Georgia, restricting voting rights. This was a long time coming. It wasn't, this was this was a culmination of years of these right-wingers and racists that wanted to restrict Black power in the South, where you have towns and cities and places where it's like majority Black, where you could really build a Black base in the South. And this is a culmination of years of this attack, a systematic attack to build up to what is happening now in the South and across the country. You see, the Civil Rights Act, one of the provisions of the Civil Rights Act was that states that previously had a history of restricting vote along racial lines had to have federal approval prior to making changes to their election laws. Well, a conservative court, I don't remember exactly how many years ago, but a conservative court struck down that provision of the Civil Rights Act. And the very minute they did that, states like North Carolina, states like Texas, states like Alabama, all of these states that had been subject to that provision started changing their voting laws. And they changed them strategically, without coming out and saying that, well, we're doing this to keep Black people from voting, but they did it in such a way that the end result would be that it would keep Black people from voting or decrease the numbers of Black people voting. And with what we just went through with the past 4 years of Trump and the way he, basically remade the judiciary, they feel that now's the time that they could just come all out and really just, very thinly veil it and pass legislation that it would limit Black votes and would prevent the creation of a Black power base in the South. And Georgia just basically blew their minds when you had Warnock and the other, what's his name? Ossoff get elected. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Ossoff.
Also,
Ossoff. Yeah. So you had a Black man and a Jewish man, both progressives, and get elected to the Senate in a deeply red state. So how fast does any state legislature pass legislation? It usually takes months, sometimes years before they pass legislation. They managed to pass this within 3 months. So, it's like you have to pay attention to what they're doing to you, rather than the things that they're putting out there to emotionally bait you and it's the same thing. I see parallels in this union as well. It's like, we get upset over small things, not to say that you're human beings. You get upset, your train's rerouted, whatever the hell, whatever goes on during the day, it may piss you off or whatever. But we need to focus on the big things. We need to focus on, when contract time comes around, we need to be prepared for that. We need to be prepared. And we need to focus on, things like these bylaws. I know Lee Ireland has spoken about it at length, and he's been here for decades. And he, if anybody can give you an analysis of what's wrong with the union, it's him. I haven't really spoken with him at length, but from what I've seen, it's, and what he's talked about, this is what we need to actually focus on, is things like this, the bylaws, the election process. These are the things that we need to really focus on. And if we focused on that, and if we got people, if we put personalities aside, if we put, small petty differences aside, and, me personally, I can't speak for John or Tom or anybody else or how they feel about anybody, and John's a big boy. He can stick up for himself whenever it happens. But, I really don't have any beef with anybody. And like I said, even if I don't like you, I'm not going to make that a point of contention. It's not something that's going to move anything forward. It's not going to help my family. It's not going to help, my coworkers. It's not going to help to create a better environment, a safer environment for us. It's just not going to do that. So, I really want to speak to, when I say these things, I really want to speak to not just the people who are activists or who are elected officials in the union right now, but I speak to everybody in the union, because when you really look at it, it doesn't matter whether you read this, you've read the contract, you've been involved in politics, whether it's or you're involved in any type of groups or whatever outside of here or whatever. We're all from a working class. We're all from the working class. If I wasn't working here at the MTA, I'd probably be working at some other place where, either I would be in a union or I'd be wanting to unionize. And the PRO Act is probably the single most the most the the single piece of legislation that's going to affect unions in this country in probably 50 to 75 years. And it's something that we really need to, like, people need to familiarize themselves with what it's about. And, you know, I would encourage you to write your politicians, to call them. You know, it passed the House. Call your senators. You know, lobby to get this thing passed. You know, and if your representative voted against it, find out why.
Yeah.
You know, I know mine did it because she's a Trumpster. You know, mine voted against it. She's a Trumpster. You know, she claims to be she's for the working class, but she does nothing for the working class. You know,
And
with the pro.
well,
Yeah,
the
go
other
ahead,
thing
John.
is that particular representative has been supported by people in our union before, and has been passed off as like some kind of working class hero. And we don't want to give illusions to these kind of people. We want to hold them accountable. We want to every time they stab our coworkers in the back, every time they're on the opposite side of the barricades from us, we want to expose them. And you know, Anthony was talking about like we'd be in a better position, you know, like how you organize for a strike, right? How you organize for a contract negotiation. Like we should look at a union election as a preparation for that, so that we are prepared long before the contract expiration, long before anyone gets elected, any leadership gets elected to office. Can somebody mute that? Okay. Long before anyone gets elected to office, we should understand that we are on a war footing with the MTA from the jump. And that has to come from the membership. It can't come from any given leader. Any particular leader is not going to marshal the forces that are necessary to defeat the attacks we are facing. When you're dealing with $53 billion in bond debt to Wall Street parasites over the next 40 years at 4% interest as the funding source for New York City Transit, to think that this is a even battlefield is fantasy. So we have to get prepared in advance. We have to build our forces now. We have to prepare for the next fight. And if anybody thinks that the layoffs are gone forever because they got federal funding, you're kidding yourself. Take a look at the MTA budget. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. They are going to literally mortgage our future and automate as much as possible and vaporize our jobs and privatize in every department they possibly can to pay for that. And Anthony's right, during that crisis, not one of those bond debt payments was not paid, not a single one of them. It's a crisis, it's an emergency. We all have to work together, except these motherfuckers, right? Right? Everybody's got to sacrifice except them. Even in the worst crisis that any of us could imagine, that any of us have any experience in our entire lives. And they couldn't be forced to sacrifice them. Why? Because of the labor bureaucracy.
John, not just that. Do you recall, does anybody here, any of you guys, recall any news reports or anything in the internet or in the news or in the television where it was even discussed that they would suspend debt payments? Was it even mentioned? Yet they threatened us, you know, to violate a contract, a binding contract, you know, in the same breath that they, you know, just after they finished calling us heroes, they threatened to freeze our binding contractual wages. Yet, if you look at the Dow and if you look at the billionaires, you know, the minuscule members of the billionaires club in this country, you see that their net worth went up, the Dow went up, all of these things went up astronomically. At a time when people who, our neighbors, our friends, our neighbors, you know, people who may not have the security of a state job or a city job were out of work, their businesses were shuttering, you know, they couldn't really make ends meet, and they were looking for, you know, whatever they had to. At that time, these guys were making astronomical profits, and yet there was no discussion at all of simply suspending debt payments from a city or state or government agency. No discussion whatsoever. It wasn't even thought of. Yet they could actually, but they wanted to violate us.
Right.
When we had, some of my friends died during this pandemic. Guys that I knew, worked with since I've been down here, they're gone. Their families no longer have, their fathers. The kids no longer have fathers. Wives no longer have their husbands. And yeah, let's take away your wages that we agreed upon. Let's take away the raises that we agreed upon. Let's just, you guys need to do this. You need to do this. So it's like I can't muster up the anger towards, anybody that I see on the train, or anybody I see with an MTA badge on or MTA patch or walking around here. I can't even really muster up that anger, that much anger at, supervision or management here, because they're not even the ones calling these decisions. But I can muster up that anger at somebody who would think to say, just a blatant fuck you, and want to suspend our raises at a time like this. To just even not the monetary thought of it, because what most of us do is we find a way. People, I see so many people here working overtime, penalty jobs, working the RDOs or whatever. They're finding a way to make ends meet or do what it is they need to do. We'll find a way, but it's the idea that you would insult us in that manner. So I can't muster up that anger towards my fellow coworker, but I can have that anger towards the people calling the shots and the people who would insult us in that manner.
Yeah. Also, Anthony, they didn't even suspend the interest payments. Like they didn't even talk about that. Plus, they were perfectly willing to talk about 9,367 layoffs of New York City transit workers. Because after all, I mean, we're not essential, right? We didn't just save them entirely, keep their entire profit-making system going during this pandemic, risking our lives. So, the question is, we all know what's wrong. The question is, what are we going to do about it? And I don't think members should be okay with anyone running for office who objects to them having a say. If they won't let you have a say now, what kind of say are you going to have later? If they don't have any strategy that they can put out in writing and tell you exactly what they want to stand for, then what kind of hope do you have that things are ever going to change and that your voices are ever going to be heard? And the bottom line is that the stakes are just too high. They're too high to gamble on somebody's ego, to gamble on their hubris, to gamble on hoping against hope that they have the answers. We just can't do it. And I just wanted to see if Tom or Jonathan wanted to get in to talk, because we wanted to start wrapping up soon. Oh, but also I also want to say that there are leaders who are running for office right now who are uniting around this plan, who do agree that it is a good idea. Evangeline Bias thinks it's a good idea. Lee Ireland thinks it's a good idea. And I know Lee, for a long period of time, is dedicated to exactly these kind of democratic principles. So then the question is, what makes them different? Why do they choose to put the membership first when others don't? And that's what an election is about. Ultimately, that's what an election is about. It's when you get to find out who people are, when they're tested. You must be tested before we give you all of the power in our union. And to demand that we never say a negative word about you beforehand or never question you on your record is just insanity. It's a recipe for disaster. Anybody want to speak? Jonathan or Tom? If you want to speak, you got to unmute. Okay, Jonathan, yeah.
Well, no, just no, everything you just said I just, yep.
Well, I mean, so Anthony, see, it's not you who's the co-signer, it's Jonathan, see? We just cleared that up for everybody who was watching, okay? Sorry, Jonathan. What about you, Tom? You want to co-sign to our analysis here?
Oh, I would love to. I've always aspired to be a yes man. And I even got my tongue ready for some good bootlicking right now.
We had enough of that, Tom. That's okay.
Yeah. Seriously though, that I really think that it's important that having a sort of a sense of, it's always kind of been referred to as a class consciousness, just understanding that we can't get pulled into as tempting as it is getting really mad at one individual, whether it's Andrew Cuomo, or going back to his father Mario, or whoever it is, the politician, or Sarah Feinberg, or the previous MTA president, or there's never going to be a shortage. If one of them were to suddenly just disappear, there would be someone to replace them tomorrow. And it's the system that we have to, keep. And the fact that something like the bond market, where the investor is guaranteed that they will be repaid before payments on pension plans, before payments on healthcare policies, anything else, any other debt, any other obligations that municipal or state legislature has to do legally, they're at the front of the line. They are guaranteed they will never get shorted. And that's why it's so, in times of economic hardship, it's a very attractive investment for people. Plus, being flush with all this extra cash, people like Jeff Bezos and all the other multi-billionaires, they can't put it in a coffee can and bury it in the backyard. They've got to put it somewhere. And so they've got no choice but to dump it in the stock market. And consequently, we have terribly overinflated stock values, and yet people running on, oh, look how good the market's doing. The economy's on the rebound. Everything's going to be okay. And that's smoke and mirrors. In my understanding, my opinion of that, that's never one sector, the finance sector of capital has never, we don't have the manufacturing side that we used to have. So just putting all of our eggs in one basket is certainly a folly. My understanding anyway. And right now we've got a little respite, a little breathing room, but the next authoritarian is coming, and he's not going to be the stumble bum that Donald Trump was. And we really need to take this time to start building and getting ready for that fight, because it's not going to be a joke. And it could literally be a life or death fight for some of us. And I think, yeah, we got a little taste of the kind of fascist terror with some archetype street thugs like the Proud Boys and various groups like that, of what is in store for the working class and the most vulnerable and historically oppressed layers of that working class here. I can't help it. It's on, because it's been on my mind. It seems like in Myanmar that they tore a page right out of the American. They had an election the same time we did, and the generals decided just to say that it was there was voter fraud, and they used that to declare a coup, to have a coup and stay in power. And now the people are building a revolution there to get them out. And their big claim is they want democracy. They want democratic rule. And I think it's a really instructional event that American workers that we should be watching and taking cues from and learning lessons from, because it's all these fights are intertwined. It's a global economy. We are a global class. The proletariat, the working class, is a global class, and our enemy has tentacles that reach around the globe. Their money never sleeps. It moves seamlessly across borders with no restrictions. 24 hours a day. And yeah, they're a gigantic parasite that we've got to eliminate.
Yeah, and as Tom said, often with the kind of parasite we're dealing with in the ruling class of this country, they'll suck our blood until there's nothing left but a husk. And ironically, the same people who never get a missed payment on their bond debt payments pay no taxes.
Right.
In reality, like they literally are the biggest welfare queens in the history of this country. All the people who Tony Utano wants to meet with, the racist, white supremacist, billionaire scumbags like the Manhattan Institute. So when you see us criticizing him about that, again, it's not about personality, it's not about mocking Tony, it's about knowing what that means, what message that sends, the message of weakness that sends. Where was he to go to Alabama to support Amazon workers? Where was he to support a strike in his own goddamn city at Hunts Point? Where was he to show any kind of solidarity with the struggles that are going on right now that are going to determine the balance of forces for an international class? He doesn't have the faintest clue about that. And his cluelessness is killing us. And so it's about that we hold him accountable, not his personality. For all I know, Tony may be a great guy. He may be loved by his community. People may think he's funny. People may want to hang out with him. That doesn't solve our problems. He is a problem for us because he represents us. His very existence as our representative hurts us. It undermines us. It sends a message of weakness. In the same way that when members decided not to pay their union dues because they were pissed at Roger Toussaint, and they decided to, basically starve to death their own union, that other workers like themselves died to build and struggled to build. What message does that send? Yeah, you may feel momentarily satisfied that the union is being punished. You're sending a message to your enemy that you hate each other more than you hate them. You're letting them know you don't have anything to fear from us because we're busy kicking our own ass. And so that's what this is about. It's about what message do we want to send to the bosses and what kind of future can we expect if we're not in the picture? And so all that we've been doing in the union has been about that. And that's why I'll be a rank and file till I die. It has nothing to do with what office I run for, what office I'm elected to. It's because I hold myself accountable because I know there's no future without our class. And we want you to understand that too. So, get in the comments. We want to hear from you. We have a poll out about this open call. It's not about our ideas. It's about what members think the solutions are and testing those ideas out. We're never going to know unless we try. We're never going to know unless we try to break the bad practices and the bad habits that we've gotten into as a union that have led us here. And we all have to take responsibility for that. Nobody is without blame. Everybody has chosen to make certain decisions that brought us here. The question is, what decisions are you going to make going forward that's going to change that course? And nobody has those answers. We got to come up with them collectively. So I thank everyone for joining us. We try not to make these too long, because we know everybody's got lives to get back to and a lot of things to do on the weekend. So we look forward to talking with you real soon. And we're going to be reaching out to people about the results of the poll. And also, if not going in this direction, anything we do in terms of the lead up to the election will be based on seeking to activate the membership, seeking to amplify their voices, and seeking to give them as much participation in choosing, not having the choices forced on them by a rigged system, them choosing their future. Anybody else want to speak quickly before we leave?
No, I'm good.
You did speak. You did speak quite a bit, didn't you there? Jonathan, you got anything? I'm sorry. Good.
No, I was just gonna say, you know, I had something to say, and
Yeah.
you know, it's we have to get this together. We have to change the way we're doing things. We can't do the same thing over and over and expect different results. You know, we're not gonna have. There is no miracle guy. It's not me. It's not you. It's not anybody else here. There is no miracle guy. And we don't have the power. We don't have the billions of dollars necessary to fight the MTA or the bosses or all these politicians who are dependent upon, you know, the billionaires for their campaign contributions. We don't have that type of resource. But collectively, we can shut shit down. Collectively, we can work with other people in working class, other working class unions, other people who are trying to unionize. And we could change this shit. We could get this to where it's supposed to be. We could get this to where the resources that we generate are going to our benefit and building our communities and helping our people. You know?
And if anybody doesn't think that's possible, just think about the fact that your work collaboratively with other workers makes the greatest city the world has ever known run. And it simply would grind to a screeching halt without us. And that every other worker everywhere else in the world, it's a similar story. It doesn't matter what city you're in. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It's our hands that make the world move. And just like we make it move, we can make it stop. And until the bosses fear that, ain't nothing gonna change. All right, we'll talk to you guys soon. Everybody have a great night. Be
All right.
safe.
Good night, everyone.
Have a
Good
great
night.
night.